Hi, this is Clay Staires with Winning in the Workplace, Session 7. We're continuing on here in our manager level training. What we're going to be talking about today in this session is simply how do we identify the work. In our last session, we talked quite a bit about, as we're putting together systems, the very first step of putting together that system is to identify the work. So I wanted to dive in this session a little bit and help you as a manager to actually identify which work do we need to begin putting systems together first. I've had so many people talk with me, Clay, there's so much, where do I begin? How do I start? It seems like there's just way too much going on. So what I want to talk about today is how you can work together with your team, with your department, with your division, okay, with others in your company, with your leadership team. How can you begin to identify the work that we are going to start off with first? It's going to be a nice time here in Session 7. Remember, we've been talking about the worker level mindset, the trainer level mindset, manager and leader. The whole idea here at each of these levels is to learn the mindsets and the skill sets to help us win in the workplace. Now, first of all, again, talked quite a bit in our last session about how many managers are constantly coming to me. They're going, Clay, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. Most of the clients that I begin working with, in fact, when I say most, I pretty much mean all, okay? But the clients that I work with are in this spot of they simply, their company has grown and their responsibilities have gone beyond their capacity to organize, or their capacity to keep out ahead of their company. And so as a result, they're always playing catch up. And the number one complaint that we get is, I just don't have time. That's right, because you're trapped in the work, you're trapped in trying to keep people together, when in actuality, there is now, because your company has begun growing and growing, now the need to put together systems and organization in your work becomes more and more important. But because we're trapped down here in the worker mode, we don't have time to manage. So in our last session, we talked quite a bit about time blocking. Again, we go all the way back to session number 3, where we talked all about time management. I want to give you another little time management tip here, okay? If you are in a role in your company, or if you have a company, if you're an entrepreneur, and you have a company where you are fulfilling responsibilities in each one of these levels, you're the leader of the company, you're also having to manage people and manage and plan systems, but then you're also in charge of inspiring people and keeping people together and drawing people to you so they don't leave, all that fun stuff. But then you also have responsibilities in the company each day where you've got to do work, you've got to produce services, you've got to produce a product for different people. If you find yourself up and down, I want to give you just a quick snapshot of what your day may look like. I love this idea of the entrepreneur. It's great to be an entrepreneur. All right, it's awesome. You get to choose which 60 to 70 hours you work every single week. Okay? So let's take a look here. First of all, what your typical schedule may look like. Now, when we talk about a full day's work, a full-time employee, usually we're talking about 40 hours a week. So that 40 hours a week, we're just going to say, goes between 9 to 5 every day. All right? And this 9 to 5, let me make this a little bit broader here. So we're going to work from 9 all the way until 5 o'clock. The important thing during 9 to 5, these work hours, this is when it is time for production. You must produce during this time. And if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be producing money. You need to be spending your time in the best spot to produce money for your company. So when I'm talking about putting together systems and writing things down and planning and all this kind of stuff, you might be going, Clay, I don't have time to do that between 9 to 5. Exactly. Welcome to the wonderful world of management where we have to go beyond our 40 hours a week. So now we're looking at 5 to 9 in the morning. Okay? Or if we pop to the other side, there has to be time on the other side to do what we call planning. This is when we're working on the company and not just in the company. You've probably been in the spot before when you're trying to, during the workday, you're trying to block out time to get these bigger things done, to think vision and to plan and organize. And you continue to get the knocks on the door, the heads popping in. Hey, do you got a minute? Got a minute? Got a minute? Because during 9 to 5, when people are coming to work, they create fires that you have to put out. So during 9 to 5, this is pretty much when you are constantly pulled into that mid-manager role, where you just have to be putting fires out all day. So if you're going to do that, all right, I get it, it has to be done. But that means that you're going to have to do your planning on the outside of that 9 to 5. It's really interesting how many times I've talked with entrepreneurs and they're still trying to put all of their work into 9 to 5, into that 40 hours a week. And it just doesn't work very well. So now we're looking at our planning. Coming up early, it doesn't have to be 5 in the morning, but it's going to have to be before everybody shows up. And then again, I'm not a fan at all of after work in the evening, doing your planning on your work and everything at that point. I'm much more during this time. That's when we're going to play, okay? That's when I'm going to be with my family. That's when I'm going to be with my kids. I'm going to be with my spouse. I'm going to be hanging out with friends, going out to eat and enjoying, just hanging out at home, enjoying my life between 5 and 10 every evening. And then if I'm going to be planning here, then I've always got those later hours where I can be doing the planning at that level. It's like, Clay, I don't like getting up early in the morning. Okay, that's fine. You can do it here. Well, Clay, I'm not a late night person. Okay, that's fine. Now we get to introduce you to the wonderful world of weekends. Okay? Because the planning has to be done. You can't just put it off. And like I said, if you try to do it between 9 to 5, when production needs to be happening, it's just hard to get it done because everybody's trying to produce. You don't have time to just shut your door. Go, I just need to plan. I just need to have some quiet time. Well, you can't do that very well. So that's why we're looking at before the workday, after the workday, or we're going to have to pull some time on the weekends. Clay, I don't like working on weekends. Okay, I get it. So I don't like working before, I don't like working after, and I don't want to work weekends, okay? What you need to do is get out of your management job. You need to go back to a worker and just work for somebody, have someone tell you what to do. At the end of the day, you can clock out, go home, you don't have to worry about it, okay? Because once you step into this management role, there's much more than just producing the results for one day. You now have to plan for yourself and plan for other people to produce those same results. Okay, so just wanted to throw that out. Your typical week schedule is going to involve hours before and hours after, and very possibly hours on the weekend. Okay, so again, as we talked about in our last session, we talked about in session number 3, you've got to block out when is that work going to take place. Just block out those time blocks to make sure that you're able to cover all of your responsibilities. So let's get in now to how are we going to identify this work? Clay, there's so much. It's just crazy. There's so many things going on. We've grown really fast, or we're behind and we need to grow really fast. I've got employees that are sitting around and there's just so many things that we need to do. Let's talk about how we're going to identify this work. Now, I've pulled some notes, kind of what we're talking about today. I've pulled some notes from Chet Holmes on his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. I'm also using notes from Gino Wickman's book, Traction. And we're going to talk a little bit about his IDS system, as well as using some of Chet Holmes, some of his different steps that he uses to help your team identify the work. So we're going to do the 13 steps here. We'll start right over here. 13 steps to identify the work. I just did this workshop with one of my clients here in the Tulsa area just last week. Went and did this workshop and went through these very same steps, and it was very powerful for them. As we finished up the meeting, I was talking with some of the employees outside, and they were just going, "Oh my gosh, we've never had a meeting where we have been able to get so clear on what exactly we needed to be doing in our next steps." So it's going to be really helpful for you, okay?